Hey, Justin Arnold here with another episode of One Step Further. If this is your first time tuning in, we are a faith-based podcast where we essentially do that. We meet some amazing people, have some great conversations, and we give you guys nuggets and tools to hopefully move yourself a step further, whether it be personally, professionally, even emotionally. I have this amazing guest. Her name is Venus. We met on social media. I was just stalking her probably because she has an amazing Instagram handle. You should go check it out if you haven't already. But then we met in person about a month ago in Mexico on an amazing movement retreat that our buddy Nate put together. We'll probably talk about that a little bit today. But without further ado, Venus, so why don't you introduce yourself, tell the folks that are listening a little bit about yourself. There is no filter here. Go ahead.
No fucking filter.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? I'm Venus Lau. Justin stalked me on the gram. My Instagram handle is Venus2, the number 2, the letter B, Fab, Venus2B Fab. Very cheesy handle, but all the other handles that I was looking for are taken. But I am a trainer and a movement coach. I live in Los Angeles. All the things. I love long walks on the beach. But in general, I love, people know me for movement, flow, kettlebells, working out. I'm a trainer, those things.
Trainer, coach, holistic human being, probably.
Yeah, all the things.
Yeah, she does a lot. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Just to say, usually my hair's in a bun, so.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we got on. This is a step further for you ladies out there. Maybe you guys with long hair, so, yeah, everyone, if you watch her Instagram, she always has her hair up. And so it was a different thing to have your hair down. And what did you say before we got on here about that?
Well, my hair's always in a bun, because I always work out and I'm always training, and my hair is so long that even if it's in a ponytail, it whips me in the face. There have been times where I've filmed workouts and my hair literally gets stuck in my mouth and I've actually choked on my hair. So that's why my hair's always in a bun.
I hate when that happens.
Well, I go upside down a lot, handstands and things like that, and a lot of rotation happening. So a lot of hair flipping. And I'm not,
if you watch.
I'm impressed with the girls though, who are dancers and they're just perfectly flipping their hair and it never gets in their mouth. I'm not good at that.
Man, we should check out their necks. I never thought about that. See, this is why I like these conversations. And it just opens the world up to things I never have to think about. I've never had to think about half the things you just mentioned. I never have to worry about hair getting in my mouth on inversions or doing any movement patterns. I never. I mean, I noticed that with the dancers, but I never gave it a second thought. You just made me now I'm thinking oh my God, my daughter is dancing today, but I'm thinking
dancers who are just always perfectly putting the hair in the right spot. I'm impressed with that. I can't do that.
If you're a dancer listening to this, we want to know what your techniques are.
What's the technique?
Reach out to us.
Out of the mouth.
Are you doing a neck exercise? Is there some whip thing? Is this from one of the 90s songs where we're whipping our heads all around and that's where it came from? Or is there something else? Because I never thought about these things. I got this I was just being interviewed on a podcast last week, and when we got on, the first thing they spent 5 minutes just talking about my hair because one guy's bald literally and the other guy's balding, and they're you jerk. So they spent 5 minutes and here I never think about anything because it just stays right here even without anything in it. And so it's I never thought about all that little whipping. Anyways, here people man, I tuned in and find out more about Venus. So not here you talk about.
You were okay, wait.
But no, these are the conversations.
Hair thing all day.
Well, I think this dives into a little bit of your personality. She's just this laid back, chilled, cool, human being. She's a real human being. You see a lot of these.
Real.
Yeah, let's just say you have 40 plus. She has a lot of followers. She's one of these huge followers on Instagram, and you never know unless you talk to her. But I bet her in person, she's just this really good, wholesome, caring person that just cares about a bigger picture as far as this thing we call fitness and movement and health, and that's one of the things that attracted me to her professionally. And so I guess maybe we start there. Like, you kind of told me, and you can get as personal as you want, but you kind of told me over dinner one night in Mexico, like what got your start, and it kind of reminded mine. But almost like it wasn't like your great big plan, like many people. It kind of happened. So why don't you kind of talk about how you even got started in this thing called fitness and health?
Yeah, it was all an accident. um, I mean, I wouldn't say it's an accident. I was always an athlete. But even when you're an athlete as a kid, you don't grow up thinking, I'm going to work as a coach one day, right? You grow up thinking, I'm an athlete. And so I played all the sports. I was a really shy kid. I didn't feel like, I guess, like I was really shy. So the only thing that made me feel of value or seen was being an athlete. And it was first to belong, to express, and I was a natural athlete. You know, pretty much good at all the sports. Played, swimmer, soccer player, volleyball, golf, tennis, um, basketball, pretty much everything. I was always really
You did it
strong.
all. Yeah.
I did it all, and I was always really strong as a kid. And I loved lifting weights with my dad. I'd go to the gym and I'd lift weights with my dad. I wanted my own gym membership when I was 13 years old.
Wow,
And
that's a big deal for a girl like that. Like, what year would that have been? Like when you were 13? If you don't mind sharing, sorry, I
yeah,
touched it. Some
no.
women are, yeah,
Oh, I don't care. I talk about my age all the time.
yeah,
But what year would have that been? I don't know.
yeah.
Oh, you gotta do the math
Probably
for
like
me.
92, 3, 2, early 90s.
No, I turned. Well, I'm 41. I
Yeah,
turned
so
six. I remember
90.
turning 16 in 1995.
Okay.
That's when I got my
Yeah.
first car. And my
Okay, so
car was
yeah,
a
like
Mac.
92, something like that. Okay. Anyways,
But yeah, so I loved working out. It was like how I was a way to express myself. I'm not shy now, but I was really shy when I was younger. I stopped being shy probably around, I don't know, college. But I was never shy with like my friends, but like in general with like strangers or people, I wasn't like super outgoing. Now I'm like, hey, what's
mhm,
up? I'm Venus. Um,
yeah, she
but
is.
it's interesting. The older I get, the more I realize I think I'm actually an outgoing introvert. Like I like
Hmm.
people, but then after a certain amount of time, I don't know if you noticed this at the retreat in Mexico, but like after I would get social for a little bit, after an hour or two, I kind of retreat back and I just observe people.
I
But
wonder if I'm the same thing. I never heard the term that. I always consider myself an extrovert because I'm super energetic and love people, but I do the same thing, and I never really put a
yeah.
thought on it. I just like, oh, I wanted my own space now. Anyways, go ahead. That's
Anyways,
interesting. I
so
might
back to
bring that
fitness.
up later.
Fitness, fitness.
I'm gonna make a
Um,
note. Go ahead.
so anyways, so I played golf in college. My parents were trying to groom me to be a professional golfer. Um, and I was learning from all the same people who taught like Tiger Woods and half the PGA
That's
Tour.
crazy.
Yeah,
That's
like it
crazy.
was very intense. My parents they sent me to Florida like 4 to 6 times a year, and I would stay with my golf coach and I would just focus on golf for like a week and a half, and literally would wake up, go to the golf course at 6 a.m., play golf, go to the range, have lunch, go back to the golf course, just like it was intense. And then I played golf at Baylor
That's like a
University.
that's like a job, like at
Oh
a
yeah.
young age almost. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
for sure. But I look at, it's like you look back at your childhood and you're kind of like, I remember being like, oh, why do I have to work so hard at this? But then now as an adult, it's not as hard for me to get focused and do stuff.
Hmm.
I think that if more kids had grown up being really focused in on a sport, um, I think there'd be a lot less depression. I think a lot of adults now have a really hard time tuning in, focusing, connecting to their bodies. And I don't mean this for like all humans, but I think
No,
just having a certain focus that is physical, but also is something that forces kids to tune in, if that makes any
no,
sense. It
yeah,
could be
no, it
creative
does. And I think
hobby.
with just like movement, there's like a health. I think even with movement, there's like a healthy balance, like a healthy medium. But even with sports, like I have 3 kids. And for those that don't know, my oldest is lacrosse, but she also plays trombone and piano. And then I have a middle son who does hockey and soccer, and then also plays drums. And then I have a youngest who's doing dance, and we're going to recital here later. And she's actually wants to do she's doing hockey as well. She just did learn to skate last year, and she's already starting with the stick and puck this year. And one thing I noticed, one, they're too busy to have time to think about what you just talked about. Of course, they're young; they're 11, 8, and 5, but also like they're so active. And then after that, they're just so used to being active, they want to be more active, which actually, like, I'm an active guy, but it helps me and my wife, like, even after our long days, to continue and bring that energy. So I agree with you. Plus, not just whether it's and my daughter, I forgot to mention, she plays chess, which I consider a sport too. So while some sports are like your basketball, some are like your chess, and some are individual, but I definitely would say even more team oriented sports. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I think golf is a team oriented sports, even though you have your individual moments when you're on the course, has the social benefit, the tribal aspect of it, the
Right.
connections. Like one thing that we preach in our house, it's not necessarily the winning is, we're not like putting monster a pressure. We're putting pressure on giving 100% and having fun. And I always tell my kids this, like I said, you have a choice, or not a choice. I was like, when you go out there for practice games, whatever, you're either winning or you're learning. That's kind of like one of the things I say with them. And I think I never thought about that much until you brought it up. I was like, I never thought about, could one of the battles against it is more activity in things like sports?
Well, I think that's just one of them. I think, like you
Yeah,
mentioned, that your daughter also does chess, which is a sport, but that's having to really construct in your mind. Like golf was my form of chess. I mean, it was physical as
mm,
well, but there's a lot of, like, you have to figure out your approach to your plan when you're playing golf, right? It's not just hit as far as you can, get in the hole. There's a lot of other factors in golf that, like, now as a trainer, I think that's what makes me a good trainer, is that I'm very meticulous when I'm learning something new or when I'm coaching people. I try to get as specific as possible, and that comes from my background in golf. In fact, my
that
Instagram
makes sense.
was built because I started filming myself when I was learning flow and animal flow, yoga, primal movement. And when I started doing it, it wasn't really that popular yet.
Hmm.
And uh, I I was trying to teach as many people as possible, but not a lot of people wanted to learn it. They were like, "This stuff is weird," you know. So I filmed myself because that my background of being an athlete was, for golf, I would always film myself and watch my swing to learn how to be better. And so I would film myself doing flow and then I'd watch it to see how I could improve. And then I just started posting it on Instagram. I didn't have like a big following. I didn't know what an influencer was. I wasn't trying to like be an influencer. I actually hated social media
Yeah, yeah, I
until one of
remember you
my friends
talking
told
about
me I
this
should
in
post
Mexico.
daily. But yeah, and so that's like how I started my following. It was because I was actually just wanting to watch the playback, and I had all these videos, and I was like, might as well post them. Um, and it's interesting how, like, when I look back at everything I'd done before, it's helped me be a better coach now. Like, even being on camera, I actually moved to LA to be a comedy writer, and
That's right.
I
You
was
did talk
more
about
comfortable.
that.
Yeah, I was more comfortable behind the camera than being in front of it. But I took an acting class to become a better writer, and I realized I actually enjoyed being in front of the camera. But because of taking acting classes and having to really tune into words and listen to other people while you're talking back and forth in an acting class, it helped me be a better presenter, a better coach, talk to people, really listen to people. And also, I'm comfortable on camera. So it's interesting, like when you look back at all the other things you've done, like it could be easy for me to be like, oh, I wasted all those years trying to be a writer or an actor. But I'm like, no, I didn't. I actually built great skills that made me a better coach.
Yeah, I think that's.
Um,
I think we were about the same age, so it's like I think we get to this point where we realize like maybe things didn't happen on accident. Maybe there was a whole
yeah,
rhyme and reason, and like we just weren't ready for this stage, so we had to go through this stage, and this was just a learning and a tool. Kind of like back to what I said, we're either winning or we're learning, but I will attest to that. Like, so I got the amazing opportunity to be coached by her when we were in Mexico, and like I, well, everybody there is great. Like, it was just great people. Like, everything she's saying is true. Like the way you coach, the way Venus is very meticulous. Like, but to the point that it's like she does it in such how do I want to say this? Like, you do it in such a way that, like, if you're corrected, for example, there was a time you corrected me, and it just felt like it just felt, God, what's the word? It just felt like there's those people out there that coach, and it feels like, you know, almost like a pressure, or you feel it. I don't know. Like with me, sometimes when I have somebody come by, as Ben said, even somebody corrects me, like their approach is key, and your approach is just right on to make me feel comfortable, but also growing, and really to the point that it's like efficient, and not condescending or anything. It's just perfect. I don't know.
right.
Like it's hard for me to express. Like, she's a really good teacher, coacher, but she's also a really good mover. Like she's just, I mean, I'm talking she, but you, like, it's just incredible. But and the comedy comes in because she's funny. She's funny at times too. So and I'm glad you brought up the golf, because I was going to bring that up if you didn't. Like, I didn't know that about you, that you trained with all these people. And like I said, I think there's a happy medium. I was reading this book, and it specifically talked about Tiger Woods, and when he was on the course, how still and focused and how meticulous he was. But off the course, we all know is social, like, because he didn't have that balance, like with the sports. And I think you do a really good job with that. And yeah, camera, like, it shows. Like, if you go watch her, you're really, really good on the camera. I don't want to skip subjects, but man, we didn't get to this. I want to know comedy. Like, where did that, like, I'm sorry. I'm going to bounce over here. Like, before I forget, like, I'm like, so
Comedy
I
writer.
went out to California to be comedy, and now I'm like this really awesome trainer, coach, person in the health industry, like influencer. So why comedy? Why California? What the heck was going on in your life in that moment? And I want to hear that story.
Yeah. So like I had said, I've always had like a ridiculous sense of humor. Like humor is a huge thing for me. Humor and movement are like my two favorite things. And when I was in college, I went through some rough moments. Like my dad, he had gotten cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer when I was 18, and then he died when I was 21. So he was diagnosed when I was a freshman, and he died right before my senior year of college. And
Mm-hmm.
he had lung cancer, and so I always needed my ways to deal with it. And obviously sports was one way, and working out, and I do consider them very separate, sports and working out, and comedy. Those just outlets for me. So, and then after my dad had passed away, my mom was diagnosed with cancer a year later, and then
Mm.
she passed away when I was 25. And but during that time, I had a lot of amazing conversations with my parents. And the thing is that they were always like, hey, live your best life. I didn't say it like that. That's like the trendy way to say it now. But like,
Yeah.
they were just like, look, I lived a really good life. And towards the end of their lives, they were like, it's so important just to be happy. And my mom, for instance, used to be like a tiger mom, and like, you know, your typical Asian mom who put a lot of pressure on you. My parents put way too much pressure on me, especially when it came to golf.
Interesting.
They were like, they're like, I, they were like, I took too many things seriously. And I remember my mom was just like, I used to get mad over the stupidest things, And I wasted so much energy being angry. And she was like, just figure out what makes you happy. She's like, that's what matters in life, you know?
That's awesome.
And
See, there's a step further nugget right there. We keep going.
yeah, I mean, and you know, they always say that about people who, when they before they pass away, they really understand more about life, what matters. And it's the people in your lives, it's your experiences, and it's just about being happy. And everyone's happy is different. And so for me, I was like, I want to move out to LA and write comedy. You
That's
know?
for being happy, being joyful. Yeah, at the
Yeah,
time.
at the time. And it changes, it evolved for me. But I moved
Mhm.
out here with my best friend. And within our first 6 months that we lived out here, we actually optioned a screenplay to a major studio with a star attached.
Cool.
And so it was just so cool. I was only 23 years old. So, which is amazing.
Dope.
But, you know, it wasn't like this huge thing. You know, it takes more than that to make it in Hollywood. But so I was, you know, bartending and things like that, even though I had previously worked in corporate America. But I
Yeah.
was like, I needed a job that gave me flexibility. And then by the time I was in my like late 20s, I was like, I don't, I got to do something that makes me feel more fulfilled and that I enjoy. And my best friend was like, why don't you be a trainer? And I was like, I don't want to be a trainer. It's such a stigma, you know? You think of that like that douchey trainer at the gym that's like, yo, like, do you even like
I mean, that was what
lift
I was
rope?
thinking. Yeah, I feel that.
You know?
Yeah, that was kind of was
I
my
mean,
hesitation.
yeah, I totally was like, I don't want to be a trainer. She's like, well, you work out all the time anyways. And I still did. There's definitely some years where I didn't, and I realized, oh shoot, I gotta get back in shape. Out at least 3 to 4 times a week, and people would come up to me and ask me if I was a trainer because they would want to train with me. And I'd be like, no, I'm not a trainer, just working out. And I'd put my earbuds back in and be like, leave me alone,
Leave
you
me
know?
alone. Yeah. No,
Um,
I'm feeling all
yeah,
this right now because like I went through the same thing. Like I had enough people putting the seed in my head, be a trainer, including my wife now. And then even with my book, it was like you should write a book now. But anyways, back to you. It's just I feel all this. Like it's like wow, we have some similar
right.
stories here. Yeah.
Well, it's just such a stigma you think of, right? And then
Mhm.
I thought about it and I was like, yeah, might as well get paid to do something I enjoy. Okay, cool. So
Right. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. So a lot of
yeah.
people are thankful.
So 6 months later, I started working at Equinox, and um, that. My first job was Equinox in Santa Monica, and ramped up clients pretty quickly. I had a full roster within I don't know a couple months, and
Hmm.
then I left Equinox after I think it was like 7 or 8 months. I just started my own business, and I've just been my own business since. I've taught classes at different gyms and stuff like that, but in general, I've mainly just been an individual trainer, coach, and from there, I've created online programs. I've taught retreats. I've taught workshops around the world. Um, you know, been in magazines. Also,
Yeah.
I did some fitness modeling and stuff like that. But in general, that's just kind of how it came about. And what I'm more known for, if someone's watching, they're like, who is this person? People know me for flow, animal flow, primal movement, yoga kind of style of movement. And if you haven't seen it before, it kind of looks like breakdancing or yoga on steroids. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what people
I
know
mean,
me most for, which is funny because that wasn't actually my main background until I had already been a trainer for about like 5 or 6 years, and then I started learning that stuff. But
yeah.
I was a meathead. I loved lifting weights.
I mean, you and I were similar in that. And can you hear me all right? Because we're starting to make some noise out here. So you hear me all right? All right.
Yeah, I hear
So
something. I hear something.
yeah, as long as you can hear me all right. For those that are listening for the first time, I decided to do this at home. Very busy day, but yeah, of course, it's time of year to do landscaping. And here in New York, it just now starts to get warm. Where you in California, it's a different story. But like we literally had snow on the ground, and we might not anymore, but sometimes we've gotten snow as late as May, just to give people some ideas of Rochester, New York. But no, I think that's key. Like some of the things you touched on, you touched on so much that I think in Nuggets, you talk about being happy and joyful, and it's different. And like, I'm sure you've gotten pushback on that. I'll like similar story. I won't go into mine, but I'll just say like, I didn't necessarily have the luxury of parents, but I had the luxury of clients. Like my parents were grind till you die, basically, like a lot. But like my first few clients, when I decided to start a career in this health and wellness industry, they were all seemed to be older, which like that's what I really enjoyed at the time working with, and they all had ailments. But like the story I kept hearing when we're just having these little sign conversation before and after training was like, enjoy your life, don't work too hard. I was like, there's always time to make money. But there's never enough time. Like your kids are gonna get older. Perfect cue, right? Like your kids are gonna get older, but there's always gonna be more money, more work, but there's never gonna be enough time with your kids and your wife, and you only have one wife or kids or these relationships, and it's like, enjoy your life. And it's easier said than done, but I think the more you like kind of manifest it and think about it, and then you kind of listen to these people in your ear, or whatever that might be, yours and I's just happen to be very similar. But I think if we just open up our minds and our ears to, maybe, like, I think what does that look like? Well, I may as well give it a try. And then 2 months in, you're like, boom. And an equinox, man, I've heard that ever since I met like you, Nate, and all these people. Like equinox just seems to be like a breeding ground or something. Like goes on out there. Describe, man, I
Yeah.
wasn't going to ask this, but I'm kind of curious, like maybe for somebody that is looking for health and wellness, what's the environment out there at Equinox, just real quickly?
I mean, that was a long time ago. It was like 15 years
Yeah.
ago. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
changed. Um,
Oh, okay.
I'm
What was
sure
it
it's
then, I
changed,
guess?
but it is a very much a breeding ground because they do a really good job of doing in-house education for their trainers,
Oh,
and they bring in other certification courses into the gym and introduce it to the trainers and say, hey, if you take the certification course, you get an Equinox discount. So that's why it's a
gotcha.
breeding ground, is because they're really good at making sure their trainers are always getting new certifications and learning. And that's why they have really good trainers there.
Yeah, I was just curious, but
Obviously, they have a lot of young trainers. It's a great place. If you're a new trainer, I would recommend that, just because the clientele has money, and so that's why a lot of young trainers go there, and it's a smart system to continually educate the in-house trainers. Now,
yeah,
obviously, you're gonna make more on your own, so than not working for
yeah,
a company like that.
for sure. I think everybody needs to
But
learn. Like one thing I was always, can you hear me all right?
yeah. It's just kind of
Oh, everything's okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
one of the key points is like, like I got told over and over again, like from people that didn't work at a place like Equinox. For me, it was like Gold's Gym, YMCA's, but like, I had that continuing education. I think that's key to like build up your clients out, because I would hear from people that try to just go out on their own because the whole money aspect that you talked about, but they can never get a foot into the ground, and then they end up just changing careers, finding another business path or whatever. They close shop. So I think it doesn't always work out that way. Everybody's a little bit different. I think there's key in that, and like being around people to learn it, and then continually learning. Why I went to Mexico, like I've been doing this for over 15 years or so. You've been doing it for a long, but I think if we just keep our open mind, and that applies to any career, and that's the message I'm hearing from you. Like you were just open-minded enough to go from comedy to do this. I mean, open-minded enough to move out to California, which is scary enough for a lot of people. So, but
Yeah.
what got you into like the animal flow? I think that's, for people that don't know it, maybe talk a little bit about it. But I think it's starting to grow. And I think one thing I want to point out, because I use it in my facility at a small scale, is like, I think people are still in the, a lot of these worlds where they just don't see why they should do it or the benefits of. And I know you talk heavily on that. So briefly, or not briefly, but go ahead and chat about that. I want to hear more.
Yeah, well, my personal history with animal flow and yoga was that I was not into that stuff for a really long time. I loved to lift weights. I liked HIIT training. I liked power training. I was very much like an athlete. And then I started getting bored. I started getting bored of like how I would mix up my workouts. And I'm naturally a creative person, and I like to be creative. I like to feel like I'm doing things. And I was an athlete. So my body likes to move in a lot of different ways. And so I started looking up different videos of primal movement, and I had not heard of animal flow at that time. And then a friend of mine was like, hey, you should try this cert I just took. And I was like, what's it called? She's like, it's called animal flow. And I was like, animal flow? I was like, that's a weird name, like I was like, what, you like growl on the floor? Like what, like I was, I had no idea what it was. She's like, trust me, just go try it, go try it and take it. And she was like, it's really fun. And I was like, cool, sure. And my body next day after taking the cert, it was the sorest it had ever been with just body weight movement. My wrists, my ankles, my hips, my shoulders, my everything. I was like, holy crap, like my body feels worked, and it was like, and then I started getting stronger, literally in every single way possible. Like I could lift heavier weights. I could do more powerful things. I felt like I was faster, like just.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's awesome. See, I think that's the thing people need to hear.
Yeah, and a lot of my ailments went away. So like being a golfer for so long, you're swinging right to left thousands and thousands of times throughout the week. I mean, at least I was, because I played competitively. I had a lot of issues in my neck, my shoulder, my hips, my back, like in my 20s. And after I started doing flow and yoga is another funny story, by the way. All my ailments started.
Let me make note of that one here. I'm making notes here along the way in case you're wondering. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, I can come back into, well, with yoga, it's even funnier. Like I was such a shithead. I was like, yoga's stupid. Like you're just holding poses. Like I can do that. Like I was very naive and young. And a friend of mine talked me into going to a yoga class, and I was walking with her to the yoga class, and then she was like, so it's hot yoga. And I was like, what? It's like, I didn't want to do yoga anyways, and now we're going to a hot yoga class. And so I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. I fell in love with hot yoga. I never felt better in my life, in my body. And so it was just like animal flow. And I was like, wow, this body weight movement stuff really works. There's something here. And as you know, as a coach, it's because we have to learn how to support our own body weight strength. And so you're having to learn how to leverage and create your own foundations and turn on your core more and find more total body tension. And there's just so much when it comes to body weight movement. And then for a couple of years, I only did body weight movement and kettlebells. And, I would lift here and there, but really it was mainly body weight training. I would say like 80-90% of my training was body weight training. Now I've kind of mixed it up a little bit more, but and it was interesting. I got so much stronger. I remember at one point I hadn't done any like barbell lifts in like a couple of years, and I went to like a CrossFit with a friend of mine who liked to do CrossFit. So she's like, come do a CrossFit workout with me. I was like, sure, okay. So I go, and at the end of it, they were like, oh wow, do you do CrossFit very often? And I was like, I haven't lifted a barbell in like 2 years. But my form was better, my technique was better, my stability was better. you know.
It's so funny. Like, I feel like, I mean, you're you and I'm me, but like some of these things are very similar to my journey a little bit too. So like, and for those that are listening, I want to just make a key, like calisthenics and what she's talking about. There's some similarities, but I don't want to say they're the same thing. So if you're, because I was this guy, that's why I wanted to bring this up. I was doing the chin ups and the pull ups, and I still do, and I love these things. I got monkey bars in my gym, and I love calisthenics. That was kind of like me. Was like I grew up an athlete, then I gravitated into like bodybuilding, then I went to calisthenics, and then I went to kettlebells, and then I found primal. But for those who are listening, like it's a whole different element. I found that when I started doing more of this, and I'm not just talking like bear crawls for those who are listening. There's a whole other library of things, but just follow her and you'll get a bunch of nuggets. But anywho, like the when I started actually stepping away from weights, like I took a whole month and just started playing around with more body weight, more groundwork, not to the level of her or anything, but just playing around. Yeah, even, and then occasionally I would throw in some kettlebells and maces. I love those, but I finally went back to a barbell. I want to say 6 months later,
Mm-hmm.
and saying similar thing is like, whoa, whoa. Like, and then
Yeah.
I started doing pull-ups and chin-ups after taking a break, which was hard for me mentally. Like, it really was for those listening. It was like really hard for me. But even like, oh my God, my scapula, my shoulder, like everything just feels, ooh, I feel so much better. So go on, keep going on. But I just wanted to like interject there for a second because I know people are listening, because that's was me. I was like, oh, it's all the same thing,
Right.
which is not. And I just want to challenge those that haven't to explore it,
Yeah. And
at
well, what's
least for
interesting
a little
is that
bit.
transference, right? The transference of going from body weight movement, right? And my motto is strength at every angle, and all the flowing at different angles of your body. The transfer of strength is incredible when you go back to lifting weights. I could lift heavier, but the other way doesn't work as well. So getting strong with weights doesn't transfer to being able to be better body weight. Um, Depending on what you're working on, obviously depends.
Mm-hmm.
But for certain things, yes, strength does, the skills do transfer in certain ways. But the thing about being on the ground too is that when your hands and your feet are on the ground, we've got millions of nerve endings in our hands and our feet. And so that connection connects to the rest of the body. What happens in my middle finger is going to connect all the way up through my neck and through my traps and my lats and everything.
Yeah.
And so we don't think about those things
No,
and
we don't.
how that transfer is. Or everyone's, well, not everyone, but reflexology is another thing. So reflexology, when you get massages for your feet and they're like, oh, this is your lung and this is your heart and this is your spleen, right, in your foot. So you think about reflexology, and all those nerve endings in your feet are going to transfer to your organs and your other muscular tissue and everything else. And that's why I always like to work out barefoot or in barefoot shoes, is because of that. And so that transference really like transforms your strength in a whole new way, the awareness. Because what is strength? It's your brain, your neuromuscular ability to create tension and more muscle fiber tension, right? Weights give us feedback. So if we're holding a weight, right, because of gravity, we're getting that feedback. So it forces the body to create more tension. But we can create that same tension without weights. We could do it with bands. We could do it by being upside down, or we could just literally irradiate and create that tension ourselves.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about so much from like the kinetic chain and how it's interconnecting. I think we're still like, we've known all this, but like as far as a population, I work with some people, they don't realize like your shoulder and your foot could be connected. They don't realize that your hand to your neck that you just talked about. Like I had a client who was having shoulder issues, and really we found out they had a pinched nerve in their foot. And then by releasing that nerve in their foot, their shoulder had better mobility. Like people don't realize some of these things. And I think that's so cool. And like, if anything, like a big takeaway for me, obviously when I went to Mexico and learned from you and the others, it's like, yeah, I got to do these movements better. But one of my biggest, personally, that biggest takeaway, especially with you, was just that a better connection, a more mindfulness. and I could have said before, oh, I'm doing these right. I'm doing these mindfully, because everything she's talking about, I'm aware of and I do and I talk about. And, these are the things I work with my clients with. But it's just like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm 40 and I'm still learning. And I want to challenge everybody that we talked about earlier to continue, especially if you're a mover. And if you're bodybuilding, you're a mover, maybe you can move a little bit better, power lifter, athlete. Because that's the other thing too. Like, I think the biggest overall message from this is like, don't think about like, I got to do the barbell clean and jerk to be a better football player. Think, I need to be a better football player. What is it going to take? Right. I mean, I think that's kind of the key components. But real quick, like what I was talking about, like my biggest takeaway from the retreat from you was just the better connection, the more mindfulness. Like one thing, I came back, I just started doing everything slower just to feel that out. Obviously, if it's loaded, I'm dropping the load. So a little caution there if you're going to slow down the deadlift or something. And it just like, and I already worked out barefoot. I'm blessed to have my own facility where I can do whatever I want. But like I had gotten away from it. Maybe I wasn't doing it as well, whatever. Like just with each toe, like when I'm in just a squat or a lunge or just standing, like, and so I want to thank you for that. And just even like with the, like one of the things you corrected me and you probably remember was like, like into those those bridge reaches, and just like, I felt my butt fire up like never before. And I'm like, I've done these a million times. What is going on? And I was just like, she talked about when the first time I was so sore. Next day, I needed a nap.
That was funny, actually. Everyone the next day was complaining how their butt was sore.
And we didn't lift one weight. We didn't do one, technical squat, lunge, or deadlift, technical, so.
Yeah.
And but here's my other like takeaways. Like, well, I was sore, which everybody's looking for. Everyone wants to feel sore after workout, right? Everyone feel like they're doing their work. And like I felt, I was sore. So I felt like I got a good workout, great workout. So I was there. But like the benefits of yoga, I felt like I was just mentally restored from the experience, and I felt more mobile. So who doesn't want to like feel like they just worked out, but instead of feeling like drained and beat up and like tight, what if you could like feel like you just worked out,
right?
Be better, clearer, have more energy and more mental clear. And hey, the pain and the mobility is so much, better. So like
the idea too that it's like you don't have to be sore after every workout. Like I remember when I was younger, I thought, oh, if I'm not sore, it wasn't a good workout. And it's like, no, you don't have to be sore after every workout. Now, yes, if you're building, there should be maybe a little bit of soreness here and there because that's just, muscle fiber growth, right? But like, but in general, like I don't get sore very often anymore. When I first started doing flow and yoga and stuff, I was very sore because it was new for my body. But then when my body adapted, it stopped being as sore because it was just, I was used to doing it all the time. But sometimes I miss being sore. And so I will try to, I'll try to like force myself to do a little something different. Just to have that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say chase the soreness, just like you said, but I like it. I feel like it, but I know if it's like 3-4 days or longer, there's something off, whether it be my sleep, my nutrition, or something. So like, there's that again. It's like we've talked about balance without actually saying it, other than when I say this is another key of like balance. So, man, we haven't really like. What's funny, we've talked about so many cool things today. We haven't even really talked about Mexico, and that was like one of the things that connected us. But like, what I've talked about my experience on social media. I've talked about it with friends, but like I'm here. This is a chance and opportunity I get with you. Like, talk about your experience, why you even like said yes and Nate, share, and we can dive into some of the experiences there too. But like, why did you say yes? What was your overall takeaway as being an instructor down there from the other side of things?
Well, I mean, I said yes for many reasons. First of all, who doesn't want to go to a beautiful beach town in Mexico?
Isn't overly commercialized yet. Yeah,
it's not commercialized yet. It's beautiful. But also everything that Nate Mesmer is the guy who put the retreat together, and he's put a lot of other
events
together. Yeah, he used to actually run events in the music industry. So But I met him actually through, I think, a kettlebell cert is where I met him. And we just became friends. And so he's done City Fit Fest, which was in San Francisco, obviously pre-quarantine, but for 3 years in a row. And I was one of the coaches that would be on stage teaching people and stuff like that. So it was really fun. It was basically kind of like think of like Coachella for fitness, right?
Yeah.
And so it was really fun. And he is really good at creating a collective of people who are very mindful and care about movement. And so he immediately was like, Venus, I was thinking about you. Like, would you want to be, the coach for this retreat that we're going to go do in Mexico, where it's all about movement? And I was like, absolutely. So whenever I have an opportunity to be with a small group of people who are like-minded and who want to feel connected and they want to go deeper in their movement practice, it's always a thumbs up for me. And that's kind of how it's always been when I've taught retreats or workshops in other places. So like when people just approach me and they're like, hey, we really want you to, I went to Sweden a couple years ago. They're like, will you come to Sweden and teach us? Most of us are coaches or martial artists, and we'd love for you to come stay for a week and teach us. And I was like, cool, I'm in.
If you don't already, you're gonna get bum rushed after this episode's published. I feel like people are like, oh, is that all it takes?
I mean, they pay me.
Exactly. Yeah. She's very expensive, and I now just became her agent. No, I'm kidding.
Call my agent.
No.
Call Justin. My agent.
I'll be. Hey, that'd be cool. I'm okay with that. So no, So what was your overall takeaway from your perspective going down there? Just for people that are like, because I've had so many people like, where is this? What is this? Like, it's like a fear, but also excitement. People like, can I go, mate? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a fear / I want to be there. So what's your takeaway from it, your experience?
I mean, I felt like it was great. What was so cool about it is there was movers of all levels there. From one girl that was at the retreat was a JoJo. She's a professional. She used to be a professional. What's it called? A rhythmic gymnast. Where they
I was like, yeah,
catch it with like their leg, and she can.
And you could tell, yeah.
And she basically like a professional dancer, but even like more hardcore. And and like gymnast, and then you had people who were in their 60s, who they just like working out, and they're open-minded, and they like to golf on the weekends, to people who mainly lifted weights, and more stiff, and then to people who mainly did stuff like yoga and meditation. So we had a really diverse group there, but the thing that everybody had in common is everybody wanted to be a better mover. And so that's the cool thing. And so that's what we really focused on, and that's what the retreat was all about, that and connection. And we had a lot of awesome things that we did, like from hiking to going to that resort to have a relaxed day, to
oh my god, I can go there again.
I know, that place was amazing.
Yeah, I even went surfing down there. Yeah, it was good. It was a good time. Like, it was a little bit of everything. Like there was workout per se. That was about the only thing I missed, was these little faces. But if you're listening, my kids are popping in and out. So yeah, like I said, I decided to do this at home because I gotta go to a dance recital, but I wanted to catch Venus on here. And hopefully you guys, is there anything else you'd like to share? We talked about a lot. Like, if you guys get anything from here, just know that she's a good human being that just wants to see you move better, feel better, and live better. What I preach all the time. She's funny. She's a good soul. She's she's chill. Like I was in my own zone. We were coming out of a hike, and then that's when her and I struck up a really cool conversation, and she just had some kind things to say, and I was caught off guard. So I appreciate that. And, but no, you're just a good human being. And that's one of my biggest things. Like, it was just cool to be around a lot of good human beings, and we're all from different backgrounds. I think we're all open to learn and be vulnerable. And I think that's the key. Like, you got to be ready to be vulnerable, but at the end of the day, you know that these people, you're in good hands. We're all going to help you coach you to be a better overall human. So you can go coach, because Venus can only do so much. We're going to put some links, but is there anything else you'd like to chat on here before we got to bounce off here? Share, talk about, okay, cool. I'll shut up. Ready, go.
I am creating a couple new programs that I'll be launching in the next few months. I have a subscription, and it's at VenusFit.com, or the specific link would be venusfit.vhx.tv.
And we'll put that in the stuff below for sure.
So I'm going to be launching a couple new courses. I have a subscription, and I always recommend getting the yearly. It is a lot more, what's the word? It's a lot less, it's less expensive.
Well, I'll say it's a good investment too, because like just doing it once in here and bouncing around, like I make my clients do a 3-month commitment, because you can't see anything in 1 week. So yeah, and she's totally worth it. I know you do those Wednesday Zoom calls as well. And
I do.
Go ahead.
I do a Wednesday class, and I do a Friday class. So every Wednesday is a Zoom class with me, and every Friday I do a Facebook Live. And if anyone has any questions, I'll answer them there, or I'll answer questions on the private Facebook group. And it's a pretty cool community, how people really support each other. But yeah, I'm just doing that and bouncing around and ready to teach my next retreat. I've been talking to some people about where are we going next.
I'm definitely open, and this time I'll bring all my youngins with, because I had several. But anyways, I really appreciate you coming on here. It's been a real pleasure. Hopefully you guys got some nuggets. If you absolutely love this, like, share, subscribe. There's always somebody, even if it's not yourself, which it should be, that could benefit from this episode with Venus. And again, all her notes or links and stuff will be below, so check that out. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you, Venus, for being on here. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and just remember, you're out here to move your life one step further. Take care.